We will be turning again, and it's a bit of a strategy, I suppose, to have our /operational institutional people, Mr. Hill and Mr. Millington, going last. But what I'd like to do is certainly to have a more unfettered discourse taking place. And so would certainly like at this time to invite Ms. Suzanne Alfonso from the Caribbean Coalition for Development and the Reduction of Armed Violence and Women's Institute for Alternative Development to address us. I indicated earlier that civil society, as a part of the whole mix of non-state actors that are becoming even more consequential, have to be heard from. And so we are distinctly pleased to have Ms. Alfonso to offer those perspectives today. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to make sure I'll time myself so that I don't overstay my welcome. Mr. Chairman, distinguished members of the panel, and distinguished participants, the Caribbean Coalition for Development and the Reduction of Armed Violence wishes to express its appreciation for availing our organization of the opportunity to share our perspective on the issue, and it really is a community perspective. The coalition is a civil society group effort to address the crisis of armed violence in the Caribbean and its effect on development. We affectionately refer to the coalition as CDRAV, has also campaigned to raise awareness about the social impact of gun violence and is conducting research and analysis on the existence and effects of legislation and policies introduced to reduce and prevent armed violence. The member states are Antigua and Barbuda, Belize, Dominica, the Dominican Republic, Grenada, Guyana, Haiti, Jamaica, St. Kitts, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Trinidad and Tobago, the Turks and Caicos, and Venezuela. The availability of small arms has an important role in raising the level and deadliness of violence in society and impacting upon the development of our region. Much of the response to this has resided in a criminal-centered approach. The issue of crime and violence and armed violence must, however, be addressed at multiple levels. Some heightened levels of violence affect direct forms of human, social, and economic activity. There's direct impact on the quality of life, productivity, the cost of goods and services, the value of property, investment, and industry. The misuse of small arms causes death and injury to thousands of people in our region every year, and it destroys livelihoods and promotes cultures of fear and terror. Deaths and injuries from violence constitute a major public health challenge. The cost of treating firearm injuries can be exceedingly high. One exercise to estimate the cost of violence in Jamaica in 2006 revealed that the direct medical cost in that year totaled 2.1 billion Jamaican dollars for injuries from interpersonal violence. WINAD and that is the Women's Institute for Alternative Development, which acts as a coordinating body and secretariat for CDRAV, is hoping and attempting a similar study in Trinidad and Tobago, and through the Caribbean Coalition, hopes that several other countries will also pursue this course. Violence, and particularly armed violence, has significant and disastrous impact on our social structures in terms of family and community cohesion, gender relations, and other traditional institutions. The decrease, and in some instances the loss of social and community cohesion, leaves a significant part of the population incapacitated to address human security issues and to organize collectively to find meaningful and non-violent dependent solutions. For some residents, and perhaps they are in the minority, there is an option to relocate. And for many, that option simply does not exist. In April 2009, a two-day Women's Regional Conference hosted by WINAD in collaboration with UNICEF in Trinidad, the representative of the Kingston and St. Andrew Action Forum noted that there are two types of violence impacting women in Jamaica: gang violence or community violence, and gender-based violence. I wish to quote from her presentation so that you could really understand the experiences of communities in Jamaica, and I dare say perhaps in other countries in the region. And the quote starts, "In most of the low-income urban communities, women who are intimately involved with dons and shotters have no other options but to carry and conceal weapons for these men, and in some instances, they even have to wash the blood-stained clothes after offenses are committed, all of which must be done without refusal, as refusal could be extremely dangerous for them. These women also become targets for opposing gangs in times of conflict. In these inner city communities, the dons are most times considered in favorable light, as their presence signifies complete protection for the community. They can request whatever service they require from members of the community, such as sexual favors, which most times are acquired from teenage girls. The mothers usually comply for some main reasons. Saying no could result in their death or in serious injury. The dons are usually responsible for providing and contributing to the well-being of their families. And in some cases, community residents reported the distrust of law enforcement personnel because they consider them to be on the payroll or on the take of the dons. In Haiti, the history of violence and gun violence is distinctly related to the situation of political crisis in the country. Small arms are a destabilizing force and have become increasingly easily accessible to various factions and militias, as well as to criminal gangs and civilians. The large quantity of small arms in circulation increases criminal activities and human rights abuses, including sexual violence. In 2006, the United Nations estimated that up to 50% of girls living in areas characterized by high levels of violence, where most men have guns, like Cité Soleil, have been raped, and that in other areas of Port-au-Prince, that was common, gang rape. In February 2007, 50 cases of rape were reported in a 3-day period in Port-au-Prince. Another alarming trend is the high incidence of these incidents by groups of armed men. Rape is just a common practice among criminal gangs. The prevailing state of lawlessness and the lack of public security enables such a high incidence of sexual abuse. Women's organizations and other NGOs working in support of the victims have seen a rising number of rape complaints occurring in the homes of the victims. The consequences, and I quote, are numerous, deep, and painful, with the violence impacting victims psychologically, medically, economically. In Jamaica, over the past 10 years, over 10,000 men, mostly youth, have been killed in violent circumstances. The tragic loss of one of Jamaica's most precious resources is compounded by the thousands more who have survived violence, but are injured, maimed, and traumatized. The Ministry of Health report on violence-related injuries for the period January to December 2008 revealed that 1,072 persons, 939 males and 133 females, were treated at public hospitals for gunshot wounds.